This is Gene Montrastelli, and welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast recorded live to tape from Williamsburg in Brooklyn. This is episode 513, originally aired July 7th, 2021. Hi, everyone. I hope this finds you well wherever you are, whatever time you're getting a chance to listen to this. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Today, we are going to talk about what the root cause is for your issue. And I'm saying it's probably the root cause for your issue, even though I don't know what your issue is, because the root cause is almost always the exact same thing. But before we jump into that and see how we can use that as a tool to be able to transform the way we respond, two quick announcements. Number one, we have a free 10-part guide on how you can use tapping to eliminate self-sabotage. All you need to do is go to tappingqa.com, click on that big blue button. If you happen to be in the website right now, you'll actually see the blue button up at the top of the sidebar. Click on the blue button, enter in your email address, and every day for the next 10 days, I'm going to send you one tiny little tool, a tool that will take you 3 to 5 minutes to implement, but will help you to identify and eliminate the behaviors that are sabotaging you so it's easier for you to take action. Then at the end of 10 days, after you've tried all of these little tools out, you can pick the one or two that work the best for you and implement them in a way consistently so you're clearing resistance and you're more consistently taking action. Secondly, I want to send a big shout out to all of the supporters of the Tapping Q&A podcast. If you are listening to this podcast on July 7th, the day it came out, or this week, make sure you check your inbox. I have sent you an email with a link so you can access a really cool new program that I am offering, that you get access to it in a slightly different way than the general public at large, and I want you to have access to that. So make sure you check your inbox for that particular thing. If you'd like to receive surprise bonuses like this, if you'd like to have the good feeling of knowing that you're helping to make sure that this podcast is reaching thousands of people all over the world, if you'd like to receive some amazing sign-up bonuses, all you need to do is go to tappingqa.com/support, and you too can be one of those amazing, awesome supporters of the show. And once again, I want to thank everyone who's voluntarily supporting the podcast. If you have spent any time listening to any of my work, you have probably heard me teach a small process that whenever we're in the middle of something, that the way I like to figure out what is going on is I like to imagine what is going on. Either I'm tuning into the emotion that I am feeling right now, or I like to imagine the action I want to be taking, because I'm trying to deal with some resistance to taking action. And my process is almost always the same. I either feel my way into it right now and notice it where it is in my body, or I imagine myself taking the action and I feel into my body. And then wherever the physical sensation shows up in my body, I start to interrogate that physical sensation. Now, to be clear, it's not always a physical sensation in the body. Sometimes it's a chattery voice in the head. Sometimes it is something that we are experiencing that isn't in our body. Like it might feel like a wall that is in front of us or chains that are holding us back. But the reality is that when we are either feeling something emotional or we're trying to take action and we're not doing it and we imagine ourselves doing it, we're going to have some experience that from this point forward, I'm just going to refer to as a physical sensation in the body, but it could be all of those things. So we encounter whatever that is. Let's pretend that it's a tightness in my chest. And the question that I always ask the physical sensation is, what are you afraid of? And I listen to the information. And the second thing I do is I say, ask, why are you afraid of that particular thing? Now, the reason why I ask that particular question is because I believe the root cause of most negative emotions and the root cause to almost all of our resistance to take action is fear. Now, there are a couple of caveats to that. I don't think grief and sadness are super connected to fear. Grief and sadness are about expressing the fact that we are disconnected from something that is super important to us. And I guess you could say, I'm afraid I'm never going to experience that again. But in reality, we're just experiencing that particular loss. So if we set aside grief and sadness, almost everything else is about fear. Because fear is our genetic heritage. Fear is the reason why, as a species, we have survived. We are very, very good at recognizing cause and effect relationships. If I go over here, there is food. If I go over there, there is danger. So I learn which direction to go. If you look at civilizations, they knew thousands of years ago to look for water. Because not only did they need water, but they knew things grew near water, and they were more likely to find food if they were near water. They knew that animals needed water, so if they needed to hunt, they went near water because they could find those animals that they could hunt. So there's this cause and relationship sense that we're constantly doing. You're doing it all of the time as you navigate the day. When you move to a new neighborhood, you find new ways to walk around it. You find the fastest way to drive to the grocery store. You're just taking feedback and you're learning, and you're creating these patterns to navigate that. And so fear is our internal guidance telling us if we think, do, act, go in a certain place, danger is in front of us. And so that would lead us to believe that since fear is that primary driver to keep us safe, if we're struggling to do something or if we're experiencing something that is difficult, it is the thing that is communicating to us in that particular moment. And so by tuning into this, we get the opportunity to discover what's going on. So let's take a step back and talk about that process a little bit. So I'm tuning in to taking an action, or I'm tuning into what I'm feeling right now, and I notice where it is in my body. Now, the reason I'm doing this is I'm trying to disassociate myself intellectually because I'm a notoriously bad eyewitness to my own experience. Because my brain is built to create cause and effect relationships, it will create a cause and effect relationship just so that there is one, even if it's not right. The example I always give is my client who was afraid to speak in public, and she told me it was because when she did show and tell, her guinea pig got away and everybody laughed at her, and that's why she was now afraid to speak in public. That's a great cause and effect. That's a great story. That's a great this happened, therefore I believe this. The problem was she was afraid to speak in public because her boss was in the room, and it had nothing to do with the story she was telling. So just because we have a conscious cause and effect relationship or a story as to why we are the way we are doesn't mean it is true. And that is useful because if I'm tapping on a reason that isn't the reason, that I'm wasting my time tapping because I'm not actually going after a real root cause. So by tuning into the physical sensation in that particular way, what we're doing is we're disassociating enough so that we get the opportunity to get out of our conscious mind and we're asking information of our subconscious mind. So the first question of asking the thing, what's it afraid of, we get this really fascinating information. It's afraid it's going to go wrong because of this. It's afraid I'm going to be judged. It's afraid that I'm going to invest time and energy and nothing is going to come of it. The second question we ask is, what proof do you have? And sometimes there's proof and sometimes there's not. Sometimes when there is no proof, we feel better, and sometimes when there's no proof, we still feel the same. But it's a really simple way to investigate what is going on. So the framework is, when in doubt, particularly when it comes to taking action, but this is for most things in our life, when in doubt, the root cause is probably fear, and so our job is to figure out what it is afraid of. Now, one thing that's really important to recognize is that, and I've received pushback in the past when I say, well, we need to figure out what the fear is under the resistance and tap on it, where I've had people say, well, sometimes my resistance is a gut instinct, which is telling me I shouldn't be doing something because it's good for me, and I shouldn't tap that away. And that's a really interesting observation. And the way that I respond to that is the goal is never to get rid of an emotion. The goal is always to have a proportionate, well-informed emotional response. And so fear is actually a really good emotion to experience. Fear is something that keeps me safe. Fear is something that keeps me healthy. It's a good thing that I'm afraid of tigers so I don't go climbing into the tiger cage at the Central Park Zoo. And so when we're responding to resistance and we're tapping on it, the goal is not to eliminate the fear. The goal is to understand why we are feeling the resistance that we are feeling. Because sometimes that resistance is the gut instinct saying, boy, I'm afraid to do this because I don't think this is a good fit. I'm not tapping to get rid of that fear so I can take the action which intellectually I think is right. I'm tapping to get clear about whether or not the fear is proportionate and well-informed. In my experience, you cannot tap away a fear that is proportionate and well-informed. You can make it smaller, you can make it manageable, you can make it understandable. And so when we're tapping on something like this, the goal is not to get rid of anything. The goal is to understand it. And if we're trying to understand it through the lens of what am I afraid of, it gives us the ability to assess it. Because typically there's one or two responses of once we understand what we're afraid of. One is, really, I'm afraid of that. I know that's not true. Or, oh yeah, that's really true. And it's a good thing that I'm afraid of that particular thing because there's danger involved and I'm going to avoid that. But by approaching whatever we're trying to do and trying to be in a situation where we're uncovering that sense of fear, whatever our emotional guidance is pointing to as something that it might feel as dangerous, then it gives us the opportunity to understand the problem clearer. And the more specific we are, the more we understand the issue, the easier it is for us to tap and clear it. And again, clearing it is not making the emotion go away, but clearing it is getting it to where we have a proportionate, well-informed emotional response, so it's good and easy for us to take action. So the next time you're in the midst of something emotional or you're tapping with someone else, the next time you're in a position where you can't take action, imagine yourself taking action and have a conversation with the physical sensation from the emotion, from the resistance. Find out what it's afraid of. Get some really clear information. In doing so, it's going to make it so much easier for you to decide what you need to tap on or what you need to avoid, because it really is the wrong thing for you to be thinking, feeling, doing, or participating in. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this and how fear is the root cause of most issues. I can always be reached, Gene, Gene, at tappingqa.com, or you can go to the website, tappingqa.com. Just click on that contact link, send me an email. It doesn't go to a VA. I actually get all of those emails. I love hearing from you, your thoughts, your reflections, because I always learn in those conversations as well. If you know someone in your life who would appreciate the conversation we had today, who are looking to find root causes quicker so they can get more results with their tapping, please pass this along. Don't spam your inbox, but there might be one or two people in your life right now that you're thinking, oh my gosh, this would make their life so much better if you passed it along to them. And the really cool thing is, even if they don't listen to the podcast, but you send them an email saying, I'm thinking of you today, and this is a tool that might be useful for you, the fact that you are thinking of someone else is going to make a difference for them today, that they're going to feel a little better and feel a little less alone. So even if they don't click play, their day is better, which means our world is a little bit better. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the podcast. Remember, in podcasting parlance, subscribe is free. It's not like Netflix or Disney Plus or anything like that. Everywhere you get audio, all you need to do is search Tapping Q&A. You can do that in Amazon Music, Audible, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora. Again, anywhere you get audio, just search Tapping Q&A. Click subscribe, click follow, turn on the notifications so when a new episode comes out, you know right away. Questions, comments, issues you'd like us to talk about in the future, I'd love to hear from you. Gene, Gene, at tappingqa.com. For the Tapping Q&A podcast, this is Gene Montrastelli. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you real soon. Bye-bye. The Tapping Q&A podcast is copyright Gene Montrastelli Tapping Q&A. All views expressed by guests are those of the guests and not necessarily of Gene Montrastelli and Tapping Q&A.